I've got a couple more things on sex while we're in this ballpark.
It's good.
Yeah.
I approve.
I like sex.
What is striking is you've got 400 pages of book here on seduction and women and beauty.
Yeah.
And like a page or two at best directly on sex itself.
Yes.
Why is it that there's so much message on seduction and romance and so little of your thoughts on sex?
Well, interesting, and I commented on it in here. I say nothing about, for instance, the modern predilection, which is pornography. I don't have a comment about that at all. You know, I was on a radio show one time on a sex show, and the woman who's been doing the sex show for years, she said, so like, what do you think that pornography has done to our intimacy and I was, for the first time, I had no answer. I'm sitting there, I don't know. Because I haven't examined it. I haven't said, in all my years of trying to understand polarity, men, women, sexuality, relationships, I haven't considered pornography because it doesn't interest me. There's other people out there that can comment on that and say, hey, this is doing this. I get that it's prevalent and that it's invading or inhabiting all experiences, and it's so readily available, which has never been like that necessarily before. But what it's doing to our intimacy and our self-body culture and the way we view ourselves and you know our need to perform, I don't know. I don't comment on it because it doesn't interest me. And when it comes to the sexual side of things, I think that the layers I'm talking about, you know, all of the upper energy and the lower energy. The philosophical side of things is what interests me. What to talk about thrust as opposed to penis and vagina, and make sure you do this and you know, lift up her hips, and that technical side of things doesn't interest me. It interests me personally, but it doesn't interest me to talk about because there's enough voices out there talking about it. So for me, it's more the spirit. As in everything else I'm putting in this book is not technique. That's why it's so difficult to say this is a very practical book. It is a very spiritual book because it's about spirit, and I'm writing about the spirit of sex, the spirit of approaching and not apologizing, the spirit of all these things we're talking about. That kind of behind the scenes spirit is what I'm trying to understand of men who have women in their lives. If that makes sense.
I wonder, Owen mentioned there's a great quote of yours we touched on briefly earlier about a man, what he wants and what he gets. You say he wanted a castle and he got a mortgage. He wanted a battle to fight and he got televised sports. He wanted wisdom and he got talking heads on TV. And I feel maybe it's like that with porn. What men want is a raw, beautiful, physical sexual encounter, and what we get is porn. It's a substitute for what we want, and it's another thing where men are settling is mediocrity.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's commentators that could say something about that more than I can, for sure. I mean, like, I talk to guys and they want a girlfriend and they would love to have somebody to love, and they want to be loved themselves, which is our universal thing. And they say it. And I say, do you watch a lot of porn? Yeah, I do. Right? I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what online dating is doing. I don't know. I have no clue. Right now, we're in the age of Tinder. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know. It's like, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I have no clue. I'm not a social commentator.
Yeah, sure.
There's one last thing I wanted to ask you about sex, and I think...
And it's still good.
It's still good.
Yeah.
I still agree.
Still like it.
Well, it's a story from the next chapter, actually, in The Way of Women, where it seems like in The Way of Women, your language changes and becomes a bit more, I don't know, there's this extra softness and an extra beauty and extra romance to it that's not in the Way of Men section, but also there's, all your stories are very sexual in nature. Like, you put the orgasm thing right in the middle of The Way of Women.
That's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Like, when I wrote The Way of Men, and the way that is kind of the tone of that is like, let's stand up, gentlemen, to myself, right? And when in The Way of Women, I'm not berating them, I guess you could say. or saying, come on, girls, like, shape up. More it's like I'm talking about experiential thing. But it's true. That's a good comment. The sexual alabaster pieces are in the actual, in the women's section. And I didn't consciously do that.
Wow.
No?
It seemed very deliberate to me when I was reading it again with a close eye.
When I put the alabaster pieces in, which were co-written, they were like written at the same time, so it wasn't like I stuck them in later or anything.
Right.
But as I shifted things around this book, I just felt like this kind of has to match that. I don't know how. Just, like it's like that stripes and polka dots kind of match each other, so I put it there. It was just a feeling how those pieces were rearranged, and they were rearranged a lot. I shifted things around in this book for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm still not happy with the order of
Yeah.
So with this, the one that sticks out to me on sex is the one of the sticky Louisiana morning.
Yeah.
So you're in a hot, sticky hotel room with a woman, and you've decided not to have sex with each other to explore the layers of intimacy and how that would be without the physical act. It sounds like you're getting a little bit frustrated with the whole thing. And the thing that stands out, well, there's a couple of bits actually. You say it's only a matter of time. This is like the strong 50 Shades X-rated style stuff. The moment I touch a certain part of you, it will all be over, and we both know it. My fingers have an instinct, a knowledge, an intuition. The moment my fingers touch that certain part of you, beckoning to you, summoning you forth, in that moment I will discover the universe of you and all your eternities. In that moment, your back will arch, your breath will quicken, and you will be mine. I will be the expert of your body like no other. I will take you then, hard, and push you across the bed in 3 positions, maybe 4, and I will feel you so full that your heart will ache and your eyes will cry.
Yeah. That's funny.
Just your face when you said that is like, I'm the man who's just finished with my 3rd stage sex.
It's interesting, yeah. I don't know how to write erotic stuff, like I'm not like, she thrust her heaving bosom, his throbbing member came flying around the corner. You know what I mean? For me, it's as you can tell, it's painting a picture of the feeling of it as opposed to the actual.
Yeah.
2 things stick out. Like on the one hand, it's a man with innuendo here on the brain.
Can't help it.
One is that, like as we spoke to him before, it seems like you're totally tuned in with her pleasure.
Yeah.
The whole time. And the other part of it as well is, even though you're tuned in with the whole pleasure, it seems like there's a dominance in the way that you approach in the bedroom, at least in this moment here. Like a complete certainty that you know her body and you will take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear you talk pleasure and dominance.
Well, for me, I mean, like every guy's different. For me, the thing that turns me on the most, as you guys know, the thing that I'm attracted to the most is devotion. And devotion in the broad stroke of the word doesn't mean that like somebody's following me around and worshiping me. I don't mean that at all. But the trust. Nothing gets me more. One of the highest qualities I like in a woman that is attractive to me is that she trusts me, knowing that I will not break that trust. That's why one of the first things I say when I'm talking to a woman, I say, I promise you'll be comfortable. And I'm basically saying you can trust me because it's true, not because I want you to trust me, and I hope you believe that. It's true. And so when I have that feeling that a woman trusts me with her conversation, with her shared time, with her vulnerabilities, with her childhood. Women tell me things that they said all the time. They tell me things that I've never told that to anyone ever before. I've never said that to anyone before.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time because they get that I don't judge and they can trust that with me. And I don't use it, I won't turn around to my advantage somehow. I know this about you now, so now I know how to get in there. Not at all. So when I have that feeling that a woman trusts me, and that includes in bed, with her body, I really like her. And I really want to honor that trust. So for me, I'm attracted to, what's the phrase? In his sexual experience, I'm attracted to a submissive girl. Doesn't mean I'm like this bondage guy and dominating and, tying her up to the ceiling, hanging her by her toenails. None of that. But it's like, I really like the notion that she's going to surrender and let herself go, knowing that I will carry her and not let her fall. Something like that.
What does that do for you?
It just makes me feel like well, like I said, I mean, if I know I'm trusted, then I really want to honor that trust. And that to me is like a high quality that I seek in any interaction. Even a girl I meet in the bar. Like I'm saying all kinds of like crazy things, sexual, joking things to her, but she knows that I will never. It's important to me that she knows that I'm 100% honorable to her and respectful. That's important to me.
So it's like a belief in you.
Yeah.
Like that we go back to the way of beauty, and all of a sudden there is the alabaster girl that believes in you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's what I want. I want her to know. Anytime if I've taken a girl home, for instance, I want her to know that she's a free will, 100%. There's no trying to convince even there, right up to to bed. There's no attempt to convince or get past any resistance. If there's resistance, I honor that.
Yeah.
And I say, because I want her full devotion in that moment. Not devotion to me, but devotion to the moment.
Yes.
You see? And if I don't feel that, I lose interest. That's my turn on. It's like that knowledge that, and I say it to girls, like, you would let me do anything I want to, wouldn't you? No. Yes, you would. I can tell. Don't talk to me. Run along. I can tell. And I'm attracted to that.
So imagine going back to Louisiana, that when you're feeling frustrated in that situation, it's not frustrated like a sexual frustration, but there's a frustration in that this woman wants you or wants to be with you, but she's actually withholding both the sex and her surrender and the devotion that you
But both
create.
of us, without going into too much detail, there's a conscious decision on both our parts. Let's do this. And my whole being rebels against that, because I'm the guy that goes all the way. You know what I'm saying? And for me which, like I wrote earlier in the book, does it always have to end up in bed? All of our sexual tension and all of our polarities always have to end up in bed to have any meaning? And the exploration for me is, why do you have to go there all the time? Right? Why does it have to culminate? Why can't you sit in the tension of it?
So what have you found? Because it seems like, well, with this experiment, what happened, it seems like you didn't
Well, I
like
can't
it.
say.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, there's a wash of emotions there that I tried to capture in this painting,
Yeah.
which is, this makes no sense to my body. She's right there. Makes no sense to my body. I can't get my head around it. But there's a conscious decision here of like, I can't describe it too much, put it that way. It's just that I painted the emotions that wafted over. Tried to capture that spirit. What is that? And I don't know.
Where have you gotten to now with the whole question about, does it always have to end up in bed?
Everything's still a big question. I have no answers. The further we get into this book, the more the questions arise. There's no answers. The front of the book, the guy on the train is saying, hey, I know something. Now let me tell you something. I know this, and I know this, and I also know this. As it gets further on, he's going, what do I really know? What have I really learned in all these years of being this master seducer? You know? And what's the bigger question? So yeah, we're getting into territory here where the more you guys ask me questions, the more I go, I don't know. And I want to know. I don't know, Jordan, and I want to know. Am I sounding evasive? Maybe I am. But it's because I really don't have an answer for you. I don't. But maybe next year we do it again and I have an answer. But isn't it great to just try and sit in these bigger questions and try and explore it? It's the greatest endeavor we can possibly do.
I see an irony in this because we're saying, at least Western men, are very much in this higher energy. As much they're in this higher energy, they feel they have to validate themselves to have meaning. It has to go in this lower energy of sex. What you're asking about is, why does it have to be this way? We're an irony. Everyone's thinking, giving this, and this is how they validate themselves.
Have you guys ever had this experience? Because this is interesting. I don't think I've ever said this before. Where you're trying to... There's a girl you really like. And you're trying to make it happen. I think of some experiences in my younger years. And for some reason, the stars align, or you said something right, or something. I don't know what you think. This is your thinking back then. She has sex with you. And in the moment that is culminated, not when it's finished, but in the moment that it's actually, you've become joined as one, something releases in your emotions, and you think, I've arrived somehow. I had that feeling in my past where, like, it's almost you almost want to cry because all that pent up desire, and there's now it's come to fruition in some way. I don't know. I've had that in my past where I'm thinking, whew. Not like it was a big journey and I became the champion of this. Not at all. It's more like there's something in her that recognized that strong desire too, and you can, and there's not a relief in it, but it just kind of like, there's a great phrase from the movie, I think it's from the movie Elegy again. These two old guys are talking over coffee, just like us. And the one phrase, I can't remember exactly, said, when you make love to a beautiful woman, it's like all your past is forgiven. You know? It's like all your mistakes, all your rejections that you talked to a girl and she said go away, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter in that moment because you're in touch with beauty and you're forgiven all of that. It kind of made sense. It makes sense to me. There's some kind of like, I mean, that was like my early years when I was trying to sort this out and figure it out, and hard to put words on it, but it was a kind of a, it's not, relief's not the word. It was more like, it's going to be okay.
Something was resolved.
Yeah, because this woman shared this with me, I'm going to be okay. Wow.
I've got a story back to the question we were asking, does everything have to end in the bedroom? It was about 2 years ago, and I had a date with this girl, very physically attractive girl, was a bikini model. And I was back in my kind of boy phase, and I was kind of thinking to myself, look at me, I'm this guy, going on a date, bikini model. And if you imagine the stereotype of a bikini model, she was the complete exact opposite. She was very, very deep, very perceptive, very honest, very open, very unsuperficial. And she was opening up to me, and we were having a really good, heartfelt conversation. She said, it's so nice to have a conversation. Everyone I meet is like, oh, I'm going to date bikini models, telling their friends. And I was going,
that was my motive too.
I wasn't that guy.
No, I didn't do that. I wouldn't think that at all.
Me. But it was an interesting one. It wasn't me coming from a nice guy energy. It was like, actually, there was something beautiful and actually going, I don't feel a need, out of almost like respect for you. I don't need to have a physical thing. There was something I remembered on the emotional thing. People say, oh, so what happened to that? And I was like, you don't feel a need to say. And that wasn't from a nice guy place of like, oh, I don't want that. I was like, actually, there's something beautiful just in this. This is a great thing.
Yeah.
Rather than this other thing which most guys come here for. And I probably did as well because we were just getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question? Because like there was a very searching, probing element to your question, which is a good thing. I'm not sure that, like, did
Which
you get,
one? That does it have to? always
Yeah,
end
just
up
your
regretting?
end questions here, where you're talking about, like, what is that? Where's it gone, or where's it been, or where's it going? Because I'm sitting in mystery myself.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I'll say it. I've been with a lot of women, more than most guys I know, and there's a different search for me these days, for sure.
A different search.
Yeah, like for me, it was like trying to, like, get girls. My early days, right? I wanted to get girls, and I got girls, and well, I mean, for me, sex has to have that. I don't know how to say it, because you know, there's all kinds of tantra conversations out there, and there's all kinds of this instruction of. I mean, sure, but for me, it has to have a metaphysical element to it, which isn't to me new agey at all, because I don't know any of that stuff. I really don't. I was at a friend's place who's a tantra teacher for the last 20 years. And I was visiting his country, and he stayed at his place. And he said, well, listen, like, I told these girls I know about you, they're tantra teachers too, and they travel the world doing workshops, and they want to meet you and so they're coming over today for tea. And they all came over to the house, and it was like, I don't know, 8 girls, and me and my friend, and we're all drinking tea, and they're having their conversation, and they're very enlightened tantric type conversation. I'm sitting there nodding my head, drinking my tea too. And one of the women turned to me eventually and said, so, how long have you been interested in tantric massage? And I'm like, I don't know anything about tantric massage. I have sex, that's what I do. I bend women over, that's what I do. And they're like, oh. And they loved it. So I'm not saying that any of that it's just not my experience. When I say metaphysical, I mean a bonding experience, I guess you could say.
Right.
I mean, it's cliche.
It does sound similar to what, at the bottom of it, the tantrics are going for. They are looking for, well, generalization, but there is this spiritual sense of surrender, devotion, love, like a connection on all levels, heart as well as genitals, mind,
And
spirit.
really describing it and openly discussing that so that it becomes a better understanding of it. Where me, I have that understanding internally. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking about it. I don't have that discussion, for instance.
With the woman.
No, with others. I'm talking to my girl all the time. I'm like, hey, I'm always talking to her, and it's a very strong bonding thing. I won't say too much detail.
That's just where I start getting curious. Like, this is something I've never heard from you before.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, I want to, yeah. You know what is strange? Yeah, I can say this, I think. It's like, it's there's something about that connection, and you feel like it's all right with the world. And it's like, the connection, like, of I'm trying to say without too much detail, but I can taste her through my body. It's strange. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I can taste her. Like, wow.
Taste her what?
Her.
Her essence.
Yeah. I get a taste in my mouth, and I'm like, and I say it. This is incredible. This is incredible, because there's such a connection to you that I can taste you. My senses are filled with you. And for me, a guy who's like jumping around humping legs all my youth, you know what I mean? Who's like, bang bang, let's go.
Yeah.
All my youth. It's a shift. It's a glorious thing. And you know, the tantra people might say, oh, let me explain it to you now.
Yeah, in that moment you enter into oneness and the spirits get combined, and then get a sense of the essence beyond the physical body.
And the universe is sprinkling little butterflies around you. I don't know. But all I'm saying is like that's the physical sensation I have, which is an emotional sensation. It's an emotional thing. When you are making love with a girl that adores you and you adore, come on, there's more than just like penetration and receiving there. There's more than just bodily fluids. And we all know this, but to experience it and to feel it is the only thing I'm interested in these days.
So this is a big part of your exploration for the next 50 years.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I've had one-night stands. We all have. And it's like, yeah, I wrote it in there. And there's times that I'm talking to a girl and I know I can take her to bed. I can tell.
Can you, on a one-night stand, get that kind of taste that you're talking about?
Well, a one-night stand is different than a connection, yes. And you might be only connecting for one night. But it's, right?
Yeah, so there's the one-night stand
Yeah.
in the empty sense of the word, and then there is
Right.
like, wow, this was a real passion, like a movie style.
It was as honest and as real as a relationship ever is. It just happened to be, instead of 40 years, it was 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now, we're getting on the bigger questions. One of the just philosophers I think you'd identify a lot, is a guy called Søren Kierkegaard.
Yeah.
Who's an eccentric philosopher. Danish. He also wrote a book called The Diary of Seduction. I know much about it. Even though I never read him, because I don't really, it's too high level for me. One of the thoughts I liked about him, he says, every person goes on a journey. Well, they start with the aesthetic side of life, the pleasure, the one-night stand, these kind of things. And they move on to the ethical, and eventually the kind of the religious or spiritual and transcendent. Yeah. And between each stage, they have a sense of almost despair.
Yeah.
Where that will no longer fulfill them. Maybe there's a stage in your life where you had these one-night stands, you got to a point of going, this no longer fulfills me, this no longer feels real, and you move on to the next stage, more about the heart. And maybe now you're onto the other stage, which is the more spiritual, transcendent one, of how to explore these higher things, these higher emotion things here. And it seems like this is in the context of the way of men, and purpose is we're all trying to move on to that higher level of, why are we here? What are we doing? What kind of relationships do we want?
Which is the essence of everything we're trying to talk about this here anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Kierkegaard's basic concept was that the leap of faith.
Yes.
That all the other philosophers and scientists toss away.
Yeah.
And so he definitely tried to fight for trying to understand what is that? What is that taste in your mouth?
Yeah.
What's that philosophy of that? When you're in love with your woman.
I love that you brought up that despair, because
it
feels like I've gone through a phase of that where it's like had certain experiences with certain women, and then there was a bit of a gap, and I've felt what it's like to really taste a woman in the way that you said. Well, I don't know in the way that you said, but in some kind of way that felt completely different to how it was before. And there is, I've noticed in my life a certain despair with that, which is like, I'm not interested to go to Gaia Club or this club and bring a girl home for one night, because what are the chances that I'll have that kind of experience? Yeah. The experience I truly want, and how much of it is going to feel more mediocre. Yeah. And there is not quite all the time the new me that's emerged and that I want to become, but the old one doesn't fully fit anymore. There's some difficulty in that.
But it's also, there is this concept of, for better or worse, sexual recreation, where they're like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not making any judgment or conversation about that at all, that's a bad thing if it's not metaphysical and you can't taste it. No, not at all. Humans are humans. So there's a time and place for everything. Yeah. Right? So maybe it's just like, hey, you want to go? Let's go. Spankety spank. Right? That's okay too. If that's your truth and her truth as well. If that's an enjoinder together, if that's there's no misrepresentation to get her in bed. I don't know.
I imagine though with the taste, that question, what is it like to taste and what is happening in that? It feels like, because I want to have more of that conversation with you, because that's totally what I'm interested in. And yet, I don't think that any kind of scientific, rational explanation of what's actually happening there is actually going to help or make this conversation glorious.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like to use something which I think ties into both these concepts, and it's something Kierkegaard talked a lot about as well, which is authenticity and connection. And it's one of my favourite passages of the book, which is, we have to be authentic. Authenticity means to embrace equally all of our strength, power, courage, passion, mistakes, failure and insecurities. To present that whole self to the world instead of our practiced varnish of cool. My favourite bit, nobody connects because they are cool, they connect because they are real.
Mm-hmm. A lesson for myself again too. All those years trying to be cool.
Yeah.
Trying to look cool. Trying to not let anybody know that I was nervous and insecure. Incredible.
And it's happened to us, all of us on our journey. The first few days we were really stiff and trying to say profound things. And every day we become more casual, more like kicking back, relaxing, telling more embarrassing stories.
Yeah.
And the more profound things come up as you do that.
And guess what? Our conversation here in these episodes has mirrored this in my mind. We followed the book, but we also followed the tone of the book, which was strong confidence at the beginning. Boom, boom, boom. I've seen some things. You want to interview me? Let's go. I know a few things. I can give you some great answers. Let's go. And then you really get into the real answers, which are questions more than anything.
I'm thinking back to the story that connects us just a few months ago. There's a girl, absolutely stunning girl I'd met 5 years ago, and at a music festival nothing happened. And completely by chance, 5 years later, I ran to the beach with her. She saw me in Thailand, another part of the world. And the first night, I was trying to be cool, I was trying to impress her, all these things. It went pretty well. And the next day I saw her on the beach and said hi, but I kind of felt this disconnected energy. I was like, oh, it's in my head, it being really cool. And I kind of felt it, but we kind of ended up talking. At the end of it, we just both spilled our hearts out. We told things we hadn't told anywhere else. This really vulnerable moment. And she says, like, she told me the truth. She's like, yeah, last night I could tell you were trying to be cool, trying to be this guy. And yeah, when you came up to the beach with me, I was like, oh, here we go again. I didn't like that energy. But when we both kind of ripped our hearts out of our chest and let them bleed and really authentic and real, she's like, wow, we've both surprised each other. And our perceptions of each other as this kind of, these type of people completely shattered. And we just like spoke for 5 hours. And we connected. And this whole trying to be cool, all my stories, all funny things that happened, all the cool things I'd done that we're trying to do was nothing.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the way of men.
That's the way of men.